While India says that in the next 7 years it's going to start space tourism in a major way and send tourists to the moon, our neighbor Pakistan is slowly imploding. This is not to say that there is, some sort of a comparison that I want to do between India and Pakistan. That's not true. All I'm trying to say is that India lives in an extremely volatile neighborhood. Hi, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching Checkmate. Ladies and gentlemen, in a recent response to a question asked in the Rajya Sabha, Union Minister of State Independence Charge, Science and Technology, Atomic Energy and Space, Dr. Jitendra Singh said, and this is a written reply on the floor of the Rajya Sabha, he said that ISRO has already started carrying out feasibility studies for India's suborbital space tourism mission on board a liquid propellant stage booster, which means that come 2030, 7 years from now, Indians who can afford it will be able to don space suits, sit in a module atop a rocket and take a trip to space for 6 crores. So 7 years from now, if you have 6 crores in your pocket and you're willing to spend that 6 crores, you can sit down, they'll give you a seat, strap you onto a rocket and boom, you go to space. India wants to become the hub of space tourism. Now, no country has done it till now. Everybody is in the planning stage. China wants to do it, America wants to do it, Russia, and maybe others want to do it. But here is India's, commitment to the people. And this is said on the floor of the parliament, which is why it becomes extremely important. India says 2030, we are going to send our first tourists to space. So currently they're talking about 6 crore rupees, but who knows? Who knows? There could be economies of scale. With India's wealth growing and the wealthy growing, high net worth individuals, there might be people who want to go to space, come back for that thrill, for that kick, and this 6 crores may even come down to 3 crores, who knows? I'm guessing if there is enough traffic, it might become cheaper. And it's great to see that India is not just sending rockets into space, not just sending satellites into space, not just sending ICBMs, testing ICBMs in space. What India is also doing is sending tourists to space. At least there is a roadmap, at least there is a budget, and there are people who are willing to make that commitment on the floor of the parliament saying that yes, we're going to send tourists to space. I think it's a big win for India already to be thinking along those lines. Another thing is that when it comes to services and goods, I'm talking about export here, this year India is going to cross $750 billion worth of exports. Very easily. By the end of the financial year, India will cross, 750 billion. People say that in the next 4 to 5 years, India could cross $1 trillion worth of export every single year. $1 trillion worth. That is what people are estimating. I think it will be sooner. What is going to happen is that currently, a bulk of our exports are, a lot of things. It's low tech and high tech both. Approximately less than 200 billion, I think close to 150, 170 billion is the IT software export. And then there are other things also that India exports, machinery, automobiles. India also exports, a lot of foodstuffs. India exports so many things to the world, and India slowly, I'll not say that India is taking China's place as the manufacturing hub of the world. We are still, a little far from that. That day will come in the near future. But India's reliability in terms of quality production and cheap prices is something that is attracting the world, and factories are shifting from China to India. So $750 billion this financial year, by the close of this financial year, is what India is going to cross. Huge major milestone. Now, there are a lot of things I would like to mention here that actually, have contributed to this. So they're saying that we will exceed our target of 750 billion overall goods and services export in financial year 23. Commerce Secretary Sunil Barthwal, he has made this comment. The growth has been driven by services, although in a significant achievement, India's merchandise exports. Now listen to this very carefully. Merchandise exports continue to grow despite global headwinds. India's cumulative goods exports grew 7.55 to 406 billion. All right, 406 billion. In the first 11 months of the current fiscal year, Barthwal said, expressing confidence that the number will surpass the record 421.8 billion of merchandise exports in 21-22 with a month remaining in this financial year. So he's saying that we expect to end 22-23 with exports of 780 billion, which will be over 100 billion higher than the aggregate exports of 672 billion recorded in 21-22. See, the story here is this. It's not just that India is exporting at a rapid rate. Now we have gained 100 billion since last year in exports. Last financial year, 22 financial year, and this is the 23 financial year. In 1 year, our exports have jumped by over 100 billion. And the good part is that a large chunk comes from non-IT. India is generally known for information technology exports, and everybody knows about, Wipro and Infosys and TCS and other companies like that. But the fact of the matter is that here is a huge chunk of Indian exports which is non-IT. In fact, the majority is non-IT, which is very good, which is why it's more broad-based. We are not putting all our eggs in one basket, which means that there are opportunities for employment of people. And this is growing at the grassroots level. And which is why I'm so confident when I say that annual exports of 1 trillion are not very far away. I don't see it taking more than 4 to 5 years. I've been watching this very closely, watching the parameters and watching the various goods that we export, the services that we export, and I'm sure to a very large extent that this can be done in less than 5 years, crossing 1 trillion exports annually in one financial year. In another news, this is something that will interest Fauji's and people who, take a great deal of interest as far as military affairs are concerned, that, new bill tabled to clear decks for theaterization. Now, in this, the government on Wednesday introduced a bill in the Lok Sabha to empower the commanders of the tri-services organizations to take action against service personnel of the Army, Navy and Air Force serving under existence of future joint commands or institutions to ensure discipline and effective discharge of duties amid a renewed push for theaterization, a long-awaited military reform for the best use of military resources to fight future wars. The Inter-Services Organizations Command, Control and Discipline Bill 2023, listen to this very carefully, ladies and gentlemen, seeks to bestow powers of the Commander-in-Chief, officer in command and any other officer heading tri-services organization to take disciplinary and administrative action against personnel under them. See, all these things are actually, what they're saying is that from a discipline perspective. So, there is the Army Act, the Navy Act and the Air Force Act. Let me break it down. And every service has a different act. Now, they're saying that in case of a theater command, so, there could be Army, Navy and Air Force, and maybe that command is headed by an Army officer. It could be headed by a Navy officer or an Air Force officer. He will have at the unit level maybe, or maybe at at a higher level also, at a formation level, he will have the authority to take disciplinary action. So that they are actually doing away with these narrow lines of Army, Navy and Air Force. And I'll tell you, this is why we agree. A lot of veterans maybe don't agree with this idea. But personally, my take is that, this is the future. The Army, Navy and the Air Force, if they come together, they fight better. In 1971, they did a fantastic job without theaterization. And the reason why it happened was we had Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw and we had a battery of leaders. At that point in time, there was a certain national mood. It was a short war, a swift war, a brutal war, which resulted in the birth of Bangladesh. Now, it's very difficult to replicate 1971. You see, there was support of the political leadership at that point in time. And there were so many things, all ducks in a row. All ducks were in a row, and it so happened because of the various things that the armed forces did. Now, but that is something that happened in 1971. In today's day and age, we need to come together, the Army, Navy and Air Force, for a variety of factors. It could be something as mundane as, buying equipment, which all three need. And maybe, if you have common commanders, you can get a better deal because, there are helicopters, let's say the Dhruv, which the Army, Air Force and Navy, all three could be using. There would be other equipment that the Army, Navy and Air Force are using. All together, they're using that equipment. And if they and that is the whole point of having the office of the CDS actually. That is the whole point of having the office of the CDS, that the Army, Navy and Air Force fight as a unit. And theaterization is a direct result of that. This jointness, this ability of the three services to fight together, I think this is absolutely priceless, and we are going in the right direction. Today, with this bill, what has happened is that local commanders or formation commanders or higher commanders have been empowered that it doesn't matter if you're from the Army, Navy, the Air Force. It doesn't matter. If you're the officer in charge, you're the officer in charge. That's about it. And I think this is a great leap forward. Now, there's another very interesting news which happened actually 2 days back, and I wanted to discuss this also. The Taliban has requested the Ministry of External Affairs, through our embassy in Kabul, that please train Taliban diplomats. And this news item says that Taliban diplomats are being trained. Currently, as I record this show, they're being trained by Indian diplomats in Kabul. Now, a lot of people have said a lot of things about it. Pakistan typically has a very negative stance about it, that why should India train, and then India is going to set the Taliban against us, and India is funding people against us, and they're doing mischief inside Pakistan, blah blah blah. I'll tell you the truth. There are two things the way I analyze it. Number one, what I'm saying is that for a very long time Pakistan assumed or thought or believed that Afghanistan was Pakistan's fifth province. They actually believed it. And a whole generation of Pakistani army generals have always said on record that Afghanistan is our backyard. The problem is that Afghanistan, the Afghan street does not like Pakistan. If you talk to an Afghan, he will always say that, it is because of Pakistan that we are suffering. It is because of Pakistan's shenanigans. It is because of Pakistan's regular interference in Pakistan. Pakistan took money. Let's say it honestly. For heaven's sake, Pakistan took money from the CIA to cause bloodshed inside Afghanistan. This was 1979 to 89, during the first Afghan jihad when the Soviets had landed up in Kabul. It was the inter-services intelligence which took huge amounts of money under General Zia from the CIA, the American intelligence agency, the external intelligence agency, and they funded this entire jihad. They took money. The generals made a lot of money. The entire cream of Pakistan, the Ashraf, so-called the leadership of Pakistan, made a lot of money. And again after 9/11, when the towers fell in New York and more than 3,000 people died, again Pakistan made a lot of money. Pakistan has traditionally been making a lot of money out of Afghan misery. And this whole thing, you talk to a Pakistani, he'll say that we are geopolitically very important. We are geostrategically very important. That part is true. But today I also want to demystify this whole thing about Pakistan's geostrategic location. Pakistan is only important because Afghanistan is their neighbor. There is no other reason. And the second reason is, of course, that Iran is almost blacklisted. Iran is almost blacklisted. Nobody wants, the Americans don't want, the Western powers don't want to deal with Iran in any manner. Otherwise, there are only two countries which have ports and which have direct access to Afghanistan. One is Iran and one is, of course, Pakistan. Now, after 1979, the revolution in Iran, there were a series of sanctions for various things. They're trying to make the atom bomb and human rights violations, etc. There are a whole series of sanctions against Iran, and which is why Iran is not, though Iran has far better infrastructure than Pakistan, but Iran is not the place of choice if the troops want to enter into Afghanistan, and the Iranians won't agree to it also. They're a very proud people, which unfortunately, I'm not talking about the Pakistani people, but the Pakistani establishment, the Pakistani rulers have never been a proud people. They've sold their country for a few dollars, and this started long back, right from the time of General Ayub Khan, where he accepted money from the Americans, and they've been accepting money from the Americans. So, when you say that India is training Afghan diplomats, this is something that is a huge setback for the Pakistanis. They don't like it. India again intruding into their backyard. The fact of the matter is, Taliban tells India, please train us. But the bigger thing is not that India is training the Taliban. The bigger issue is that Taliban is willing to engage with the world. Otherwise, why would you want diplomats? Talibans have traditionally wanted only AK-47s and rocket-propelled grenades. They've been happy with that for decades. Today, the Taliban says we need diplomats. And who better to train us in diplomacy than the Indians? So they approach the External Affairs Ministry and they say that we want training. And Taliban sees that there is value in engaging with the world. Taliban sees that there is intrinsic value in sort of reaching out to the world. The world may not recognize the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. Given their shenanigans, girls should not go to school, girls should not work, girls should not ride two-wheelers, girls should not come out of their homes without a proper burqa or a hijab, being accompanied by a male relative or a husband or something like that. All these things are something that the Western world, or the entire world for that matter, except for China and Pakistan, people don't like these things. People want a certain degree of freedom. That is who we are as a society everywhere, except for China and Pakistan. They don't care. They don't care. For them, Afghanistan is a product to be used. But as human beings, we don't like the fact that, freedoms are being curtailed in Afghanistan. Having said that, this is a time when the Afghan Taliban also realizes that the days of living in a cave, and negotiating through the barrel of the gun, those days are over. The world has changed. And they also realize that the Americans have left. I'm not saying the Americans have left Afghanistan for good, because it is my belief as an analyst that one day the Americans will come back to Afghanistan. One day they will come back, because you cannot ignore Afghanistan. And this is something which gives Pakistan great hopes, because if they come back, good chances are that they'll go through Pakistan again and Pakistanis will make a lot of money, like they have been traditionally making. But the point here to consider is this, that you see, Taliban wants to reach out. Taliban wants to connect with the world. Taliban says that the days of living in that cave, as I mentioned before, those days are over. We want to connect with the world. And, unless you have a diplomatic corps, unless you have people who can talk to the world, unless you have people who can engage with the world, how do you get a country to, diplomatically accept you and say that, okay, we recognize your government? Where does that recognition come from? It comes from diplomacy. And this is something that the Taliban lack. Taliban is building up its own diplomatic corps. And I think this is big news. It hasn't been adequately covered in the media. It hasn't been adequately spoken about, but it should. Now, coming to, a favorite topic of Pakistan, the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says that we have escaped default. Pakistan has escaped default. I don't know if that is true, because Pakistan may have deferred default for a little while. But I don't really think that Pakistan has escaped. There is no finality about Pakistan escaping default, and there is a reason. Let me first tell you what Bilawal Bhutto says, and then I will come back to the reason. Bilawal Bhutto says that we are in a perfect storm of crises, a series of crises that has taken over. So the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister are saying two separate things here. Pakistan has three crises on its hands. Number one, political. Number two, economic. And number three, security. As far as security is concerned, the line of control is stable. And there is silence. There is peace along the line of control. There is ceasefire. A ceasefire that has been holding on for more than 2 years now. But the western borders are on fire. Not a day passes when there isn't an attack inside Pakistan and emanating from Afghanistan. That is what the Pakistanis claim. And there are killings every day that are happening, and uniformed people, whether police, levies, constabulary, army, somebody or the other is getting killed in Pakistan. And this is all happening at the hands of the terrorists. Terrorists that, Pakistan encouraged at one point in time. You could very well say that the chicken are coming home to roost, but I'm not going to say that. All I'm going to say is that Pakistan is caught in a very, very, very tight place, and the Prime Minister and the External Affairs Minister of Pakistan are saying two separate things. Now, coming back to this, that Pakistan is, has dodged default. This is what Shehbaz Sharif says, it has dodged default. The fact of the matter is, Pakistan has no coherent policy. No Pakistani, including Imran Khan, says that here is a white paper. I'm putting this white paper up on a website. Let the people of Pakistan go to that website and read what my plan is. Shehbaz Sharif, as the incumbent Prime Minister of Pakistan, has not said this. Imran Khan, as the wannabe Prime Minister and former Prime Minister of Pakistan, has not said this. It's a game of personalities that is happening in Pakistan. It's all a game of ego, personality, greed, ambition. This is what you're seeing, being played out on the streets of Pakistan. Nobody has a roadmap. And this is exactly what the former Finance Minister of Pakistan, Miftah Ismail, said a few days back. And he made this comment, very beautiful comment he made. And he says that nobody can save Pakistan, economically, whether it's Imran Khan or whether it's Shehbaz Sharif or Nawaz Sharif or Zardari, nobody can save Pakistan unless you have systematic changes. This structure has to be brought down. It has to be dismantled. And only then can Pakistan prosper, because there are some intrinsic problems in Pakistan's, financial and economic DNA. Pakistan runs like the Mughal Empire. And unfortunately, it is crashing down just like the Mughal Empire. There are too many people who want a part of the action in Pakistan. There are too many people who want benefits from a system that is no longer functional. Pakistan is not earning money. It is not earning foreign exchange. But it's very difficult to get Pakistanis to control their expenditure. It's very difficult to tax rich Pakistanis, and this is exactly what IMF said to the Pakistanis. For heaven's sake, stop taxing the poor, tax the rich. So what does the Pakistani government do? It increases the taxes on the poor and it lets the rich go by. So the rich are not taxed, the poor are taxed more and more till their bags break. Second thing is, in Pakistan, there is no accountability. Many people don't, actually pay taxes. There are ways there is still a huge amount of informal economy. So people say, if Pakistan is going broke, and like the world media says, global media says, Pakistan is going broke, Pakistan is going bankrupt, how is it that you still see, a semblance of order inside Pakistan? That is Pakistan's black economy. And the problem with the black economy is the day the people decide to take their money and leave Pakistan, everything collapses overnight. That is the biggest problem. It is unaccounted for cash. That is why you're seeing flight of dollars. All these dollars, where are they going? They're going to Afghanistan. People are slowly and slowly withdrawing their dollars from banks, though the banks are not giving them dollars any longer. But people are trying to withdraw as much as they can, trying to shift. There is, Sushant Sareen, who's a very popular name on television and face on television, and he's a member of the think tanks, various think tanks, and Sushant writes wonderfully, and he's an expert on Pakistan. He's been to Pakistan on track 2, and he's visited Pakistan, he has friends in Pakistan. Sushant made a wonderful observation one day in Arnab's debate, and he tells Arnab that, Arnab, this whole thing about Pakistan is not a failure of the government, it's a failure of the state. Just think about it, let that sink in for a minute. What you're watching in Pakistan, tear gas shells all over, people not allowing the police to arrest Imran Khan. Imran Khan is saying that the army chief is trying to kill me, or somebody's, this entire thing. And this is something, very confusing for a democracy like India to understand, that why is this happening in Pakistan? That is because there is an absolute collapse of the state. It is not just the government. Governments were never very efficient in Pakistan. They were never efficient, they were never honest, they were never great administrators. But the state functioned. Now the state has stopped functioning. And it has stopped functioning for the past 4-5 years. It's not just today. And this is what Sushant very rightly said. Now, Zalmay Khalilzad is an American diplomat. And Zalmay Khalilzad, was the one who brokered this entire Afghan peace deal. And he was the person who sort of pushed America towards signing this deal. The famous Doha Accords, under which the Americans left Afghanistan, and, the Taliban came and took over in a sort of a bloodless coup, if I may say so. Now, what is happening is that Zalmay Khalilzad made certain observations, which Dawn News has covered, and I'm going to read out from this. He says, Pakistan faces a triple crises: political, economic, and security. Despite great potential, I don't know where Zalmay Khalilzad saw the potential, but anyway, let me quote him. Despite great potential, it is underperforming and falling far behind its arch rival India. It's time for serious soul searching, bold thinking, and strategizing. So, he also says that, the sequential cannibalizing of its leaders through jailing, execution, assassination, etc. is the wrong path, adding that arresting the PTI chief Imran would only deepen the crisis. Now, this is Zalmay Khalilzad making a point about Pakistan and saying that Pakistan is in a perfect state of crisis. This is pretty much what Bilawal Bhutto Zardari also said. But Zalmay Khalilzad said there are two things. He says that Pakistan has fallen far, far behind India. All right? Pakistan has fallen far, far behind India here. And there is no catching up here. This is something that I am adding. This is not what Zalmay Khalilzad said, but I mean, this is pretty much what he means, that you're far, far behind. And second thing, he says that if you arrest Imran Khan, it will push you further in a crisis. Now, this set me thinking, where have I heard this before? Where have I heard this before? Imran Khan actually has a firm in America. Imran Khan pays money to a certain firm in the United States of America, which they do lobbying for Imran Khan and the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Now, the government of Pakistan has no lobbying firm worth its salt. All right? I'm sure they have some shabby little firm, but Imran Khan has a firm who does lobbying for him in America. And this has been covered extensively in Pakistan media. I would encourage you to sort of Google and look up that firm. So a certain amount of money is paid and they look after Imran Khan's image. And the PTI's image, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, which is Imran Khan's party, and Imran Khan is the chairman of that party. So, suddenly you have senators and congressmen of America saying things that are, positive as far as Imran Khan is concerned. So Imran Khan, the person who till yesterday was saying that it is the Americans who have removed me from power. It is the American deep state or the American, the State Department, which is responsible for my government's early demise. They orchestrated my departure. They were involved in a conspiracy. Now suddenly, this guy is approaching the Americans to say good things about him, and he's paying money for that. Look this up on the internet. It's very, very interesting how Pakistani politics plays out. So today you have the senior Americans, members of think tanks and congressmen saying that, oh, we spoke to Imran Khan and, I think he's a great guy and what's happening to him is absolutely wrong. This is international pressure on the Shehbaz Sharif government, all primed towards one point, that Imran Khan, it does not matter if he has a roadmap or not. It does not matter if he has a vision or not. But Imran Khan, through hook and crook, must become the next Prime Minister of Pakistan. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this episode of Checkmate. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I'll catch you again next week with another interesting episode. Till then, have a great weekend.